And thanks for coming back with us here on Forbes Sports Money. Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines because it's time to welcome Matt Kaulig to the show. Matt is the owner of NASCAR Xfinity Series team Kaulig Racing, a team that will move up and race full-time in the NASCAR Cup Series in 2022. Matt recently sat down with Michael Ozanian to discuss his extremely successful start in racing, his unique path to becoming a team owner, and much more.
Matt, what does it mean for a racing team to have 3 drivers in the Xfinity finals?
Oh man, it's been such a great year. It means a lot. It means you actually did something right. Only 12 cars get into the playoffs, after 26 races. So, the fact that we were good enough as an organization to get all 3 of our drivers and our cars into the playoffs says a lot about our organization. Even to be in the championship 4 is a huge accomplishment, and I'm really, really proud of that.
In sports like football and baseball, when you win a championship, there's an impact on your business too, in terms of sponsors, ticket sales, and so forth. Does that happen in NASCAR as well?
Absolutely. Everybody wants to be part of a winner. Everybody wants to be part of a winning organization. So, from even drivers to sponsors to even employees. In NASCAR, there's a bunch of teams. And there's a bunch of mechanics and a bunch of engineers. And, it's just like any professional sport. It's a really sought after job. It's a really cool thing, to work for a NASCAR team. And then when you're actually getting trophies and winning trophies or winning championships, then people want to be part of that. I still wear a ring from when we won Daytona. We won our very first win as an organization was in Daytona. So, you got a big old ring. So I wear this thing every single day. And it's just cool. It's just great. Even as a team owner, just to be part of a winning organization makes me proud of all the women and men at Kaulig Racing.
You were an incredibly successful entrepreneur. What made you decide to get into NASCAR?
Got into NASCAR through leaf filter. I started this company called Leaf Filter. It's a gutter protection. We do gutter screens, keeping all the leaves and debris out of your gutters. And, started that back in 2005. Actually started it out of my house. So I worked out of my house for a couple of years before it started to expand and grow. Just worked in Northeast Ohio for 3 years and then started to expand, throughout the Midwest. So opened up several offices and, had the opportunity to be a sponsor on a car. And that was back in 2014 and just kind of fell in love with it. But being a sponsor in NASCAR is pretty darn expensive. And so, I started looking into what it would be like and being entrepreneurial and, getting to know some of the other owners and executives at NASCAR. I thought, I think I could do this myself. You know what I mean? And so instead of spending all the money given to another team and really not being in control as far as how we ran the personnel. You're just a sponsor. I really started looking into owning my own team. So that's what I did along with Blake Cook. Blake Cook was my driver. And then I met a guy named Chris Rice, who ultimately even today is our team president. And we started from scratch. We started a NASCAR team. We didn't buy one. We didn't buy a franchise. We literally started it from scratch. And so that's one of the cool things about the success that our teams had. It's just been an entrepreneurial, experience and experiment. And we're doing really, really, really well with it.
What convinced you that the economics could work, Matt?
Well, even just knowing it as a sponsor. I knew a little bit about how the thing worked. And again, I'm very entrepreneurial myself. So even when we were just a sponsor on a team, I would ask questions and just want to figure out, the economics of the situation. NASCAR's worked really hard with the teams, to really bring the cost down. And, whether you guys have heard or not, there's called a next generation car that is coming out next year. And all of the new car and the new parts. Basically what we've done with our Cup cars is we're throwing them away. Everything that we've used as far as parts, tires, brakes, aren't applicable to this brand new car. And so NASCAR is going with a model that's going to allow, everybody to not only be more on an even playing field, but economically, it really helps out.
Matt, what do you think will be the net effect of the next gen car next year? In other words, will it be more emphasis placed on driving skills, pit crews? What will be the upshot as we look ahead?
It'll be interesting to see, and even when you say drivers, a lot of people think maybe the younger driver, because it's a different car, getting into a race car, if you've been doing this for years, isn't, you're used to driving a certain type of car. So even rookies coming into the NASCAR Cup Series, they're not used to driving such a heavy, vehicle. And it takes a while, even a couple of years sometimes, to really get used to it. So these veterans that have been in the sport for years are going to have to go to a brand new car. And that's why I say it almost levels the playing field for drivers as well. The great drivers are still great drivers. You could put them on a tractor and have them race, and they figure out how to go fast. It's just what they do. It's still going to come down to the setup, in your engineering, and how your crew chief and car chief, set up the car. They're used to going to these tracks and they've been doing it for years. Ultimately, Mike, what it comes down to is nobody knows. We don't know. I mean, we have no idea, what's going to happen. So whether all the cars are pretty darn even and it just comes down to a couple things, or, my guess is that the teams that run fast and the big teams that go fast every week are still going to go fast every week and beat, be at the top of the leaderboard. So that would be my guess. And hopefully we're one of those teams.
All right, it's time for a quick pit stop, but we have a lot more to come here on Forbes Sports Money, so stick around. Great to have you back with us on Forbes Sports Money as Michael now continues his conversation with Matt Kaulig, owner of NASCAR Xfinity Series team, Kaulig Racing.
Someone threw a word at me, one of my professors in business school, scale. I don't know what it means exactly, but it seems like you generate a lot of scale between Kaulig companies and your NASCAR team.
Yeah. Well, scale, it doesn't mean what something weighs, you get on the scale. It's just growth. We are scaling. We started out with one car, 5-6 years ago, and then went to a part-time second car, and then a full-time second car with a part-time third car. And now we're at 3 full-time cars in the Xfinity Series. And we bought 2 charters, and we're going to be running 2 full-time cars in the Cup Series next year. So it's growing with a lot of people. It takes a lot more cars and a lot more people, to put those together.
Now, I understand that to those 2 charters that you bought to race in the NASCAR Cup Series, word on the street is you outmaneuvered Michael Jordan for those 2 charters. Charters, of course, you have to buy charters. There's something relatively new in NASCAR over the last few years, which basically gives you an automatic slot to race in the Cup Series. How did that come about?
Well, you're right, and they call them charters, but they're really like franchises. They NASCAR and the owners, came up 5-6 years ago with this charter system where the 36 cars are automatically locked in to be able to race every week. NASCAR used to be in a situation where 75 cars would show up to the track to race in 43 spots. And so, if the economics of having to get sponsorship and go to the track and then maybe not race, and you're just spending money, you're not making any money, you're not getting any purse money, was really tough. So they came up with a way, even to build value in the franchises, of NASCAR and the individual teams. So there's only 36 of them available. They're not really. It's one of those things where they're not really for sale. And so you've got to figure out how to get them. Who wants to sell? Who might be trying to leave the sport? Who might be open to selling their charter? And so that's a funny thing. So Michael Jordan owns a team with Denny Hamlin, and they were looking to buy another charter. They are actually still looking to buy another charter. And so there's a handful of teams out there, including Justin Marks with Trackhouse Racing. Well, it's actually Justin Marks and Pitbull that own Trackhouse Racing. So yeah, Michael Jordan and Pitbull both at the beginning of this year, came on as new team owners. And so I guess it's safe to say that outmaneuvered, Michael Jordan, but those guys are doing a great job, and they're good friends and good, good teammates. It's weird in NASCAR, you're competing against everybody every single week, but you also all have to kind of work together to build the sport, and you have to work together. I mean, you're working with them every single weekend.
Now, I know because of non-disclosure agreements, specific prices can't be discussed. But as I understand it, when charters first came out, in general, not all of them, they actually did not get the valuations that people had hoped. But I've also heard that over the last year or so, they've started in general to increase again in price. Is that an accurate description of the valuation of charters?
Yeah, they've definitely gone up. In price and in value, which was the whole point of starting the charter system. Really, when NASCAR started the charter system, I actually don't think that there was I hope I'm not talking out of school, but I don't think there was a price on them. I think they just gave them to the teams, to help build value, for some of the, for some of the owners, and try to develop more of a franchise, type environment. So for example, like I'll use Richard Childress, for example, like the 3-car was an iconic car. Dale Earnhardt, drove it. Now Austin Dillon drives the 3-car, and there's value when you see that 3-car on the track. I mean, it really means something. And, and if Richard Childress ever got out of the sport, or if Austin Dillon went away, then they're really, the intent was to really build value in that team, in your team, Richard Childress Racing, so that someone can come buy the organization and then have success, in racing. So you just saw Justin Marks from Trackhouse Racing bought Ganassi Racing. They bought the whole thing. So they bought the charters, they bought all the employees, they bought all the stuff, all the cars. It's really been about not just getting the value up on the charters, but it's an interesting situation even for ownership or the people in NASCAR, because the value of the charters has gone up, but you'll even hear some people saying they want to get into the sport, but they can't afford the charter. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so it's like, I would like to own an NFL franchise, like we all would, but like you have to have billions of dollars, right, to be able to do that. So, only a select few people can do that. So hopefully the charter system is working the way that it should, where you are building value in the thing, but it also makes it harder, for racers or for people to buy the charters.
Well, I thank you very much for expanding my knowledge of scale. I've been struggling with that lately, but daily companies in NASCAR, I've progressed, I feel. But I also get the feeling that part of your success is you love being in control. So my final question is, how long before you actually get in a NASCAR and race yourself?
Oh, man. Never. I'll never. I thought I've only been in car one time. So we talked earlier, I had the opportunity to get in one of our cars at Daytona, last year. So last October took a bunch of laps, around the track, and I won't be getting in a race car and racing anytime soon.
Ozzie, as always, a fascinating interview. And another thing that's fascinating, it seems like Kaulig is sort of a new wave of ownership in NASCAR.
Yeah, the ownership structure of NASCAR has been tumultuous the last several years, but we've seen some real fresh blood with new ideas come in. As you point out, Matt's part of that trend. We've seen Michael Jordan come in, some other guys come in. I think this is going to be very positive for NASCAR.